What's your true life story that nobody will believe? My dad was married 2 times before my mom. When he was with his second wife, he would travel a lot for work, which I knew. What I didn't he know is that one night he came home to find his wife in bed with another man. Actually walked in on them. He left the room and came back with a gun, shot the man dead, and wounded his wife. He turned himself in immediately and was sent to prison. He was sentenced to 10 years in a maximum security prison. In the last year he was in prison, which was the 4th year, he got out for good behavior, and since the judge ruled it a crime of passion, he met the prison minister. The prison minister was my mom. My dad is a murderer. My mom was the minister. I am the product of a conjugal visit. My aunt has only ever flown from Atlanta airport twice. The first time it was hijacked, taken to Cuba, and then sent back to the States. The second time the landing gear didn't work and they did a crash landing on the belly of the plane. My aunt has never flown through Atlanta since. Mentioned this before on this sub, but my life is akin to a bad pun at times. I was carrying my skis, slipped on some ice, and fell down. I asked a passing girl if she could lend me a hand with the skis while I got up. She then told me she had no arms, and proceeded to wave her empty coat sleeves around as proof I just kind of fumbled to get up whilst apologizing profusely. She giggled and walked away. Long story short, I was asleep at a friend's. A kid who was there thought my friend's 45 cal handgun was a BB gun. He shot me in the left booty cheek. Severed femoral vein. Damaged femoral artery. Life support for a week and a half. 3 8-hour surgeries. Permanent femoral vein to femoral vein bypass. Fake vein. And a little over a year later I'm back on my feet on my way to being normal again. On my way home from school about 7 years ago, I was sitting at a very busy intersection waiting to turn left. It was very gloomy outside. All of a sudden, it sounded and felt like the back of my car exploded. There was also a quick, very bright light that flashed in my rear view mirror. I panicked, and noticed immediately after that the stop lights stopped working, and it also began to rain. I looked out in the distance, and saw a lightning strike. I also looked on either side of me where there was a ton of traffic, and everyone was staring at me like this. That's right, I was struck by lightning. When I was 23 I had to spend the night at the DC Reagan airport. I hadn't gone through security yet so I was walking the main strip where you check in. It was about 1 AM so there was no one there since the counters were closed. Then out of nowhere, Stevie Goofing Wonder shows up, said hi for like a minute then he and his assistant disappeared. Okay, here we go. I had to jerk into a cup to count my soldiers because I had a long time testicle infection. Sorry, you have to use the children's room. Every other room is occupied. So as I enter the room I see Sesame Street books, stuffed animals, colorful walls and a clock on the wall having animals as numbers. The nurse tells me that there are no porn magazines available and I tried to be funny and said doesn't matter. Ernie and Bert are enough for me to get off. She did not get the joke. Then she asked me if I know how to masturbate and gave me a quick rundown on how to masturbate, all the while looking disgusted and angry. Okay, so there I was, in a children's room in a urology clinic trying to masturbate into a cup while stuffed animals were looking at me with a nurse right in front of the door. I heard her telling the other nurses my fetish about Sesame Street. They all laughed. I had to start over. When I got to the point where I thought that I could fill the cup, the koofing clock on the wall started to moo and make koofing loud cow noises because it was 12 o'clock. I must have sighed very loudly because the whole floor went nuts and started laughing even harder. Start over NR2. When I finally finished and left the room the nurses were still laughing. I've posted this before but here we go again. When we were younger we would play a game where we would throw a pot lid as far as we could into the water and someone would have to fetch it. Basically like playing fetch with your dog. The kid who would win was the one who swam the furthest. One day, a kid threw the lid really far but the other kid was determined to get it. He swam out really far and then bam. The crocodile got him and dragged him underwater. Edit. Some of you asked for the AMA link so here you go. I have 3 dead exes. One died when he was 25 from a car accident, one when he was 30 from a mysterious illness, and another one was stabbed 40 times by his girlfriend's jealous ex. He was 18. I also lost my virginity to a dude with a glass eye who went to jail for rape. I met a guy online. We emailed and messaged. This was before texting was a thing, and went out a few times. I liked him but wasn't sure about it. He called me pretty regularly again. This was pre-texting. One day, no calls. That night I called and left him a message. No return call. I called his work the next day, and he hadn't shown up. I called the police, who did a well-person check at his house but he wasn't there. I wasn't there. The next day the police called me back. They'd found his body. He'd been murdered by one of his neighbors and I had to testify at the trial. In college I had a bunked bed with my desk under it. I was in bed reaching for my cell on the desk and lost my balance. Fell off the bed, did a full flip and landed in a perfect sitting position in my chair unharmed. My roommate witnessed everything but nobody we believed us. Was shot at in a high-speed car chase through Atlanta after witnessing a murder. I can be seen momentarily on the opening credits of Judge Judy edit. I'm not Bird, nor am I Judge Judy, just someone with a very tiny IMDb page. My husband had the opportunity to operate on a gorilla's knee once. They have essentially the same anatomy as humans, so they asked human physicians to operate on them in many major zoos. It was really cool, and afterwards they gave him a painting done by the gorilla as thanks. Apparently the gorilla was going through some adolescent rank wars with other male gorillas and had his knee battered and bitten, though the meniscus. I know, it's his story, not mine, but he doesn't get on the internet, and I think it's super cool and I'm really proud of him. Edit. We had it framed with the thank you note from Billy, the gorilla, and his trainer. I was sitting on the curb of a busy intersection with my girlfriend at the time when a car approaching the intersection hit a rabbit. The rabbit was in mid-stride, and it flew forward instead of getting squashed. The rabbit flew a few feet and landed in my lap. Both me and the rabbit survived. I was eating at a Chipotle when someone flies their helicopter there, parks in the parking lot, gets a burrito, and then takes off in his helicopter. At 25 I owned an illegal casino boat in Key West, Florida and I now owe the government $5 million. I once fought a swan.